so much for choosing UBC as your preferred network. I don't do this alone. I am alongside Robert Kirabo. Good morning to you, Robert.
Good morning, Priscilla, and of course those that have woken up with us this morning. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. It is a very interesting day. Reason being, yes, we shall never have the 31st of August, the year 2021 again. So it's gone. But actually, there is so much that the new month has for you, and how you prepared, which mindset you have will determine either you succeed or things don't work out as you plan. So it's right now that you set that mood, positivity, determination, hard work as you enter into a new month.
We do have our Reverend for the show, who is back this week with us, Felix Nkunda. Good morning to you, Felix.
Bonjour, Priscilla.
Bonjour.
Ça va?
Ça va bien.
Ah, merci. Un tout petit peu. Hello. How are you, Molen?
Hello, how are you? Why did you greet me in French?
I was coming. You see, when I was talking to Priscilla in French, Molen was like, oh my God, no, no, don't.
I prefer Spanish. Bring it on, the Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah, take your revision.
But anyway, good morning, Molen. How are you?
Good morning, and how are you?
How have you been? You look awesome in red, I must say.
Oh, thank you so much.
Robert will be singing Lady in Red.
Oh yes, that's very true.
yeah.
All right. So how have you been?
Good. And very good morning to you, our lovely viewers. Yes, it is a good day, like Priscilla has put it. But also we want to reach out and give you some of that good from our sessions here. It's going to be a full pack, Priscilla.
Okay, so as the year is wrapping itself up very, very fast, it's running at a terrific speed. My question is to my colleagues, the plans that you had, Robert Kirabo, are they going at the very same speed that the year is running at?
Well, I love music so much. One day at a time, sweet Jesus, this is all I'm asking of you.
That's a good one. Okay, all right. Felix, your agenda for 2021, the plans that you had, how is it faring on your side?
I don't know. I'm already in abundance. I've achieved and passed the achievement. Probably if my purpose was 90%, I'm somewhere in 180.
Okay.
Yeah, and I bless God.
So since you're in 180, what would be your word of encouragement to someone who's still like at 38%?
Oh, set realistic goals for starters, and that's key. That's why people, it's important. But also, secondly, for me, I think that when you have a plan, put it all out in the arms of God, and it's going to be easy that way because He's the one who mends every piece. Is like you just, you know, like the old saying goes, if you put your custody and trust in God, He'll move you from glory to glory to glory. So it's all easy as long as it is the purpose of God. So your plans must be in the confine of the purpose of God for your life. Every time you put your plans out of the purpose of God, that's why you struggle so much. You struggle so much because you're reaching out for something against the will of the Almighty. Okay. I think so.
All right, Molen Kenyana, your year 2021, it started. Now it is gone 8 months down the road. Yeah. What is the journey been like for you?
The journey has been good. I mean, besides what everyone is going through with the pandemic, there has been some little things, and I want to believe in the fact that we celebrate the little wins. So for me, it's just the little and small wins I got to achieve, and those I'm grateful. I am not a person who sets a lot of goals or even look out to have like a list of those, but at least I have a mindset of I need to do this at a particular time, and when I get to at least get started, that's enough for me to know I took a step. So yeah, I can't complain at this point.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So there you have it, your 3 lessons as we step out of the 8th month into the 9th month. You first of all have to take it one day at a time, as Robert Kirabo does recommend, and Felix Nkunda does recommend that for the remaining few months, then it's better you set realistic goals that you know you can achieve at the end of the year. But also Molen has told you that you just need to enjoy the realities of life and make sure that you maximize every opportunity that comes your way at the end of the day. Those are our recommendations here on Good Morning Uganda. But of course, you cannot forget God. You can't put God out of the equation. You must always involve God in every single thing that you do. For us here at Good Morning Uganda, for every single thing that we're going to be doing, we intend to do it with vigor to educate you as well as to inform you. First, we get to look at the last 24 hours and the stories that have actually shaped this country both on national level. Could be education and so many other facets of our country Uganda. We'll also get a look into the international scene, and later on we'll be letting you know what will be coming up on Tuesday morning.
And we'll start that with affairs happening in Masaka, where government of Uganda has earmarked 10 million shillings for each family that has lost a relative in the ongoing Greater Masaka machete wielding. This has been confirmed by the resident district commissioner, Fred Bamwine, in an interview with UBC TV. As per of Sunday, 29th September this very year, Bamwine confirmed that over 38 suspects had been netted in connection with the murders. Besides involvement of local leaders in this fight, Bamwine said the security interventions are undertaken to arrest the situation. Though he could not rubber stamp what might be the root cause of this current mistakes happening and murders, Bamwine pointed out drug abuse as part of the problem in the region. Registration and recruitment of LDUs is being looked at as a long-term solution to these killings. Bamwine also revealed that government has set aside 10 million Uganda shillings, a package for every family that has lost a dear one, and will also foot the medical bills of those nursing wounds.
Still regarding Greater Masaka, security has intensified investigations into the gruesome murders in the Greater Masaka area which have been linked to terrorism attacks. The development was revealed by Internal Affairs State Minister General David Muhoozi while addressing journalists in Ruwengo district, one of the areas greatly affected by the killing. General Muhoozi, who was in the company of other top security officials, including Director for Operations AIGP Edward Ochom, Director for Crime Intelligence Brigadier Jack Bakasumba, and resident commissioners of districts in Masaka region, said that they have discussed the mechanisms to use to counter the assailants who have since killed 28 people in the space of just 1 month. The minister noted that such acts are intended mostly to cause fear among people that with unpopular choice of method, which he said was unacceptable, adding that though investigations are ongoing to establish the root cause, this is a recurring incident in the region. General Muhoozi said 69 suspects have so far been arrested and at least files of 11 people have been screened. They will be arraigned before the courts of law.
Relatedly, on Masaka, Uganda police has vowed to pacify Masaka, the Greater Masaka region. The situation amidst murderous rampage, which has so far claimed over 26 lives. This commitment for the arrest of 15 prime suspects taking part in the machete killings. It is now 5 weeks since Greater Masaka was invaded by machete-wielding gangs whose intention is yet to be known by security agencies. Police, in conjunction with other security agencies, are doing vigilance operations to end the syndicate and random murders. So far, 15 key suspects are under police custody out of the 68 that were arrested before screening. Based on the preliminary information, police said the murders are being conducted by some residents within communities with a specific sponsor. Community mobilization is ongoing among the community members to enhance vigilance after destroying 2 cells of these machete-wielding gangs. Meanwhile, police criminal report of last week indicates an increase in domestic violence cases, 3 cases of suicide, and escalating misuse of firearms by private security agencies.
Forum for Democratic Change Deputy Spokesperson John Chikonyogo has condemned the ongoing murders in Greater Masaka that have claimed over 20 lives. The party advises government to cooperate with the area leadership and criminal investigators to detect culprits. This was during a weekly press briefing at the FDC party headquarters in Najjanankumbi. Of late, Masaka district is making headline news for all the bad reasons, the ongoing murders where residents are having sleepless nights and not sure whether they will make it through the night without machete-wielding murderers not attacking them. Chikonyogo asked Security Minister Jim Muhwezi to enhance security tactics if they are to get the culprits who are changing killing tricks each new day. He added that Masaka being an opposition area, if there's any opposition member taking part in the vice, they should be arrested. FDC further advised government to have a central point of communication instead of having different security bodies updating the country on the murders.
Away from Masaka and what is happening there, still on crime, we move to human trafficking, where 9 Ugandans were arrested at Jomo Kenyatta Airport over stamp forgery. The Directorate of Crime Investigation and Intelligence confirmed. The arrested were being trafficked by Awan Chimera Rashid, who is still on the run. According to Crime Intelligence Directorate of Police spokesperson Charles Twine, the government is planning to rescue these Ugandans who were arrested in Kenya over forging Kenyan stamps. These were being trafficked by Awan Chimera Rashid, promising them jobs abroad. The suspect is still at large. Similarly, the Immigration Department of the Ministry of Internal Affairs has intercepted trafficking of 8 Burundian nationals who are being trafficked through Uganda. The increased cases of trafficking in persons are blamed on unemployment, greed for wealth, and lack of information, among other factors.
Cross over to our international story as well. We'll be looking at Afghanistan, and the last U.S. military flight departed, ending America's longest war in Afghanistan. The last U.S. military flight has left Kabul, marking the end of the country's presence in Afghanistan. America's top military commander in the region, General Kenneth McKenzie, said that at least C-17 aircraft left Kabul with the U.S. ambassador on board soon after midnight local time on Tuesday. He added that the diplomatic mission to assist those who weren't able to leave before the deadline would continue, and of course celebratory gunfires by the Taliban were heard after the plastic and the last departure. Now, the departure of the last aircraft signifies the end of America's longest war and massive evacuation efforts that began on the 14th of August, soon after the Taliban took over the country. Now, in other news, that is Hurricane Ida rescue efforts continue in Louisiana. Over 1 million people lose power. And rescuers in boats, helicopters, high water trucks brought hundreds of people trapped by Hurricane Ida's flood waters to safety. And of course, on Monday, utility repairs crew rushed in as well after the furious storm swamped the Louisiana coast and ravaged the electrical grid in the stifling late summer heat. Residents living in the maze of the river and boyas along the state Gulf Coast, of course, retreated desperately to their attics of roofs and posted their addresses on social media with instructions for search and rescue team or were on the ground. Now, more than 1 million homes and businesses in Louisiana, Mississippi, including all New Orleans, were left without power as Ida, one of the most powerful hurricanes ever to hit the U.S. mainland, pushed through Sunday. Well, of course, back to Africa, we'll also be looking at South Africa scientists monitoring new coronavirus variant. South Africa scientists have detected a new coronavirus variant with multiple mutations, but are yet to establish whether it is more contagious or able to overcome the immunity provided by the vaccine or prior infection. Now, the National Institute of Communicable Diseases has also come out to say that the variant known as the C12 was flagged last week by the KwaZulu-Natal Research and Innovation Sequencing Platform in the reprint study that has to yet be peer and reviewed by the same. Now, on Monday, C112 was only present at a very low level, and the same also does pose strange and fear to the people who may contract. Now, while the majority of South Africans' coronavirus cases are currently caused by the Delta variant, fast detection in India, C112 caught scientists' attention because it is also mutating and has a force to also attack in the same way, causing the same danger. The frequency of the same is a threat and must be handled quite vibrantly.
Well, today is the deadline for U.S.-related affairs to actually end with Afghanistan, and they had asked for an extension in that regard, but well, it is what it is. All we hope is that we were expecting about 2,000 Afghan refugees here into the country. So far, we've received one batch. We'll be expecting more as time goes by, while they are being resettled back to the U.S. after being camping here for a short period of time. Away from that, Molen Kenyana, as she joins us, I have seen something about Hurricane Ida. Molen, we want an update in that regard, and what should we be expecting from you this morning?
Yes, we continue to look at those devastating effects coming in after Hurricane Ida hitting Louisiana. Now, already this has been connected to the worst hurricane to ever hit this region, and that was Hurricane Katrina. Now, after Katrina, there were a lot of the aftermath, but already we are seeing this with the effect of Hurricane Ida. A lot of people are losing power, and now even 2 hours ago I was reading a report that is showing that over 18,000 parishes are already losing power, and we are seeing a report of also 2 people dead already from this effect. And now the threat that is coming to the area is more on the river flooding from the Mississippi, like we have been seeing. We want to take more looks on that, but also we do have coverage of the drought over Madagascar, and we'll be showing that, and also across Uganda. We want to look at the weather prospects for the coming 2 weeks.
All right, thank you so much, Molen. We do have Robert Kirabo enjoying his green tea this morning, courtesy of Hallelujah Ginger Tea Drink. This is a reflexology drink. Yes, the word has so many. It is for fighting. Yes, but anyway, they are natural drinks and they're highly recommended for you. In such a time as this, COVID-19 is amidst us, vaccines are scarce, but nevertheless, we must take care of our bodies, most especially our immune systems. And so these particular drinks can actually go a long way in helping you fight any other virus that could be camping in your body, and also boost your immunity system, as it is boosting Kirabo's immunity system this morning.
That's why I rarely fall sick. Because these are natural drinks,
yes, sir,
certified by the Uganda National Bureau of Standards, so they are safe for me to consume. And it's not all about being healthy, it's about looking after your body. And one of the tips is Hallelujah Ginger Tea and Hallelujah Turmeric Drink. But also later on in Good Morning Uganda agenda, we are going to be discussing issues regarding vaccination. You know, we have now the AstraZeneca, the Sinovac, we are expecting Johnson & Johnson. So we are having an expert from the Ministry of Health who is going to be discussing one. Give us also an update of vaccination, more so with specific interest to the teaching fraternity, the teachers, where it is very clear, no jab, no job.
No jab, no job. Yes, that's the drill. In our newsreel, we're going to be looking at a related matter, vaccination drive for the teachers that is ongoing. What is the update in that regard? Also proposals both from the teaching bodies and the Ministry of Health amidst the pressure of reopening of the education sector. But our poll question this morning, we get to look at a very interesting discussion.
Assure safety for both students and teachers as schools plan to reopen. You can share your true sentiments through our Twitter handle, that is #UBCGMU, and on our WhatsApp number 0709602592, and also on Facebook. And you can leave a comment as well if you're watching us from YouTube. Okay, want me to, and the poll question is, how can government assure safety for both students and teachers as schools plan to reopen? Again, you may share your true sentiments through our Twitter handle, which is #UBCGMU, and of course on our WhatsApp numbers that will be flashing on your screens. You can catch us live on Facebook And also you can leave a comment if you're watching us through your YouTube.
All right, thank you so much, Felix. Well, we wrap up this particular hour, and as we get into the next hour, we'll leave you with the song for the day. Catch you in the 7 o'clock.
my Uganda.
I know with you I'll always stay forever. I know, because I feel that we belong together. My home, under the sun so bright, under the moon at night, on my heart, mommy, oh my Uganda.
Hey, mama.
My Uganda.
Oh,
My Uganda.
oh,
My Uganda. My Uganda. Nigokone. My Uganda. Amari alemira. My Uganda.
nyoe nikugonza.
My Uganda.
Amina ngojo, Amina ngojo.
My Uganda.
At MTN, we look forward to starting another exciting journey together to grow our home, Uganda.
You cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
You know, you could just buy a new smartphone from anywhere in Uganda. 94# to activate their 100% double data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles for 3 months. Better yet, you automatically receive free 1 GB valid for 30 days. You are hooked already, aren't you? Enjoy a 100% double data bonus from Airtel. Buy a smartphone from anywhere in Uganda and insert an Airtel SIM card. Dial *175*94# to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Dial *175# and select your preferred bundle to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome to the 7 o'clock hour here on Good Morning Uganda, Tuesday, 31st August 2021. My name is Priscilla Nalwoga, and we are into our newsreel alongside Robert Kirabo and Felix Nkunda that we shall be engaging this conversation. The conversation is really about the education sector. The reopening question still looms across from the national level all the way to the social level into our families, and we are finding all sorts of solutions to be able to see the education sector also moving on amidst COVID-19. Now, when you talk about education, the truth is it's the foundation of development. It's upon its background that we can have social and economic development that can also create well-being for society and more so for a country such as Uganda. And maybe we should start it by understanding what's the relevance of education to Uganda, especially a country that has a national development plan. I will start with you, Felix.
Well, of course, speaking about education, basically, you would want to cause redefinition in any form of civility that may be desiring to develop itself. Because then development shall be shifted to a vastity of approach in terms of infrastructure, in terms of economic policy, in terms of planning, in terms of attribution, in terms of litigation that may stretch as far as political, social, economic, and in all these other vast needs or approaches, you will need to have technocrats. And that brings into play the relevance of education. Between you and me, you've heard the word expatriates. If you remember, countries like Uganda, or territories, if you may want to call them, in times like the 1900, there was, or even before that, you've heard of stories like the Indian coolies, the Red Indians, all these kind of people who used to come. They came because there was scarcity of technocrats, people who knew how to
the
do
Indian
those
coolies being
exactly.
the railway line in East
But
Africa.
now that's the relevance of education. That for us to have our country move forth, there are sectors in fact, all sectors that consider national development must have people who directly feed into this kind of works. You can imagine a government like Uganda, if you had expatriates, let's say you have people from India here to run the ICT, or probably will be sitting here to talk about these issues. People imagine if this show here had people from Zimbabwe to discuss issues of national importance, if you had the airport being manned by people from Cuba, so the relevance of education by far is basically to feed into the national plan, the national vision, having its own people causing attribute to that. And this is by appreciating the techniques that come with particularity. Like, for example, being a doctor to solve problems of health, being a lawyer to solve problems of judicial services or probably the rights and whatever, being a teacher to be able to pass knowledge, being an engineer to work in infrastructure, just to mention but a few, being accountants, to all these things. So the relevance of education wholesomely is entirely about national building, and mostly for third world countries, to help shift a country from a place like third world, low income, where people can't earn, to shift them. Robert Kirabo goes to school, and clearly that alone can change the entire family of about 30 people, because it works backward.
All right.
So it's basically about changing socio-economic welfare of people and the country at large.
Okay, thank you so much, Felix. Well, for that background, it clearly shows you the relation or codependence or even interdependence of the education sector alongside other sectors to cause national development. Now, yesterday there was a consultative meeting between stakeholders for the education sector alongside the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Health and also Ministry of Sports and Education, all coming together and forging ways forward, and a few proposals did come through. However, by the time of this consultative meeting, the Ministry of Education and Sports had started a vaccination drive for teachers, and this has been ongoing for over 7 days now, and we do have an update, Robert, on that regard.
Well, thank you, Priscilla. When you look at the opening of schools, and one thing that is very clear when His Excellency was addressing the nation, he said for a teacher to be back to class, you must be vaccinated. And that is why we saw the Ministry of Education, with the aid of Ministry of Health, embarking on this massive vaccination exercise for teachers. We could be having about 550,000 teachers if you have to look from taking it from nursery, even maybe up to tertiary institutions. And when we look at the Ministry of Health, they have put about 300,000, that is vaccines for teachers. Category is teachers. And as we speak, as of Thursday last week, we had about 730,000 teachers and non-teaching staff who had gotten vaccinated. And when you look at this figure, actually that is what the ministry is targeting, that at least they vaccinate 730,000 teachers.
That's both teaching and non-teaching staff
by the time they open schools. But we are looking at how far we've gone. I may not have yesterday's statistics, so let me look at Thursday, by Thursday last week, where you'll find that 234 had received their first jab. These are teachers who had never been vaccinated before. So if you have, at least now, you're sure that you have 170,234 get their first jab. Now, those that are fully vaccinated, that is with AstraZeneca, that we know, we are told if you have 2 jabs, you're good to go. There's enough immune system in your body. You had 61,848. those received their second jab, so they are fully vaccinated with AstraZeneca. Now, looking at Kampala alone, Kampala was able to vaccinate 10,782. Those got their first jab, that is the Sinovac. Remember, you can only get your second jab if you got AstraZeneca. You have to get AstraZeneca vaccine. And this is between 12 months. That is what we recommend. That is 12 weeks, about 3 months. That's what we recommend for Uganda standard here. So this is how we are standing of late regarding how far we've gone with vaccination.
All right. Now, in this regard, of course, we might look at Kampala, where the vaccination drive started from Wakiso district. Other districts are yet to pick up on this vaccination drive. But one, Felix, let's look at the fact that we have scarcity of vaccines. If you're saying that we have 300,000 vaccines that have so far been directed in this regard, over the 730,000 targets of people that they have in just the education sector, look at the presence of rural areas, remote areas. Look at the fact that teachers actually were doing a lot of mobility in terms of, I am a teacher who is originating from Masaka, but I'm teaching in Gulu. So does that mean that I have to go to Gulu to get that vaccine? And also, you have teachers that come from really, really remote areas that the nearest they have is not the education center, but maybe the hospital, the health center is closer to them to get a vaccination.
Well, actually, when I was listening to you talk about that rural setup and all this, it reminded me why people used to say that it is important to always be urban. The relevance lies in such services. You know, as a matter of fact, our capacity in terms of vaccination, and in particular about COVID-19, hasn't been very much appreciated. We're still trying to find stability in terms of where we get drugs, our purchasing power. The ministry has continuously come out to say that even if you have the money, we have failed to be able to. Actually, I'm reliably informed that all that we have used so far is donations.
Yes.
So you
from
can
the
imagine.
COVAX, that is how we are being able to get these vaccines.
You can
but also,
imagine.
Felix, there is a ray of hope that the minister has assured Ugandans that between October, December, and maybe September, we're expecting 18 million doses of AstraZeneca. 18.
Oh.
Then 9 million of Johnson & Johnson.
Alhamdulillah.
So if this comes 18 plus 9, and if you have so far how many have been vaccinated, if nothing changes, then we believe our vaccination.
Back to the conversation of rural service delivery.
Yeah, and based on what I think Robert is trying to bring out, that we must appreciate a phased way of approach in terms of academics and generally as a country. It is sad that we are not in general control of the events on how they are unfolding. That, for example, when you talk about vaccinating institutions of learning and workers of institutions of learning like teachers and support staff, the other question then would be, what happens to students? For example, look at universities. Is it good enough to vaccinate lecturers? How about, because students are more or less the same age with their lecturers, most of them are above the age of 18. There are very many unanswered questions, but however, if you hear the contemplated discussions, even deeper than vaccination, you do appreciate that the kind of disease or virus we are fighting against has many ways around it, all right? On top of vaccination, I would want to hear a vivid discussion into the SOPs. It is not enough for us to accredit vaccination as the only way out, because previously we have tried enhancing SOPs. You know what happened with schools, the results you saw. But how do we merge this massive vaccination of education facilitators with enhanced SOPs, washing hands? And we have said time and again, as government discusses vaccination, is it discussing enough about the prices of water, the prices of other commodities that ail SOPs, like soap, water, sanitizers, masks. Yes. Because these should be discussions alongside vaccination.
Because
it is
up
not
to
enough.
date, you have not had all of Uganda receiving the government
masks for that matter. Yeah. You know, you don't have, between the beginning of COVID and now, prices have for some reason, gone above the roof. So, shouldn't we have a discussion about vaccination tallied with these discussions on how we enhance SOPs? Teachers will be vaccinated, but between you and me, you know that kids contract COVID-19 as well, and they have a high rate of transferring it from what the scientists are saying.
So then that should call into question of how then does the Ministry of Health actually supplement this particular direction that the Ministry of Education is taking.
Yes.
Because if you bring it up in that direction, one of the proposals from the education sector, the private sector, was that if schools are to reopen, perhaps proposing that students should carry with them COVID treatment, 3 bottles, so that in case they contract COVID-19.
COVID-X?
Yes. It was a proposal.
Yes.
So each student returning to school should carry 3 bottles of COVID-X, so that in case they contract it, there's treatment available. But you see, who is administering the treatment? But then also you have to consider at what point, at what point will that be detected? Because then that requires the presence of continuous checkings, continuous rapid tests for the students. But again, it's a price.
But for me, lastly, let me just say this, Robert, before you come in, that I think the focus should be put in all sort of discussions. We should by far focus on the preventive measures, limiting measures.
What if we can have,
and this is what I'm saying, that government should bitterly go into that discussion of cutting costs of the most supportive aspects of SOPs, masks, sanitizers, water, soap, period.
Well, Felix has said it that we must look at some of those, and I greatly agree with him. But also, when we talk about reopening of schools, Priscilla, you asked what could be the possible alternatives. Yesterday, during this meeting with a few, and of course many were on Zoom, there are a couple of proposals that came out. We must understand that Ministry of Health has really spent, Ministry of Education has really spent a lot trying to see how best we can have learning until they agreed. I want to tell you, we've spent up over 600 million, that is on radio lessons as the ministry. We've spent about
so what is more important, the money that you are spending on giving education or the relevance and how it's actually being taken?
I'm trying to show you that there is much that has been done until they said no.
But you have to do a lot. Now you have to do monitoring and evaluation. It doesn't matter spending money. Where's the monitoring and evaluation of the impact of those decisions?
Well, I was trying to drive something home, showing you that there are alternatives, ways of learning that they have tried, and they have not yielded that so much. But now they're looking at some of the proposals. Some were rotational learning, that because you need to ensure social distancing, let's ensure that students rotate in learning. If you can have some study maybe Monday to Thursday to Wednesday, then others continue. Then they proposed also shifts. How can we have shifts? For example, maybe some study from morning up to the afternoon and others study. Then also erecting temporary structures at schools that we can have kind of tents for social distancing.
Yes,
so here
but
they are
Robert,
at social distancing.
Okay, for example, the temporary structures, it's a good initiative, but right now, just the private sector has not had facilitation, no aid, not even the money that was promised to the teachers in the private sector to help them survive through COVID-19 while they don't have jobs. Now you're telling the very same private sector of education to implement structures, which means an extra cost, when most recently they were actually wanting to protest over government not coming through to help them with just the bank loans that they have. Reduce the interest rates, or just put a directive giving it to the banks to let them know that, you know, anyone that is in the education sector, give them different treatment for the meantime to help them thrive.
That would be a good idea, and no blame about that. But also you must look at what they are focusing at such a point. I would agree with Felix if you talk about water, electricity, then we look at some of these materials. But when you go to education, and of course we know most of the schools we have here, our education institutions, are private in that area. Yes, government must look at that as well if you are to have smooth opening of schools. But me, what I look at very important here is strengthening inspection and monitoring of shops. Because, Priscilla, I know there is what can be obvious and in the near future. and what can take us long. The biggest challenge we're having in this country of ours called Uganda, that we have very good initiatives.
I like
very
that,
good.
Robert.
Yes.
Our country called Uganda.
Called Uganda. We have very good laws, we have very good policies, the technocrats sit and plan very good ideas that move the country forward. But we fail in implementation, supervision, and inspection.
Felix, these proposals are nice and juicy on paper. Let's look at since 2020 March, just for a private end of education. You've had so many schools closing up, so many teachers actually choosing alternative means of survival. So that means you already have an existing gap in the teaching staff, a deficit, thank you. You already have schools that have closed out, meaning there's also a deficit in there. And now, even the few that are willing to push through this season of COVID-19, there is no aid per se that is being given to them to help them support the government national development plan.
And very shameful is that a couple of weeks ago, you had one of the ministers coming out to say that for those that have loans, they should sell their assets and pay the loans. You can imagine such a person. And now they're faced with a challenge. And between you and me, we have consistently also said that education in this country is a right, and it must be given. But government doesn't have full capacity to offer this right ultimately, and it is complemented by the private sector. Now, what you're saying is that you're going to face a situation, and for the next about 5 to 10 years, that one, you're going to have a deficit in the teaching staff. Because up till today, it has been proven that among the worst careers, in the eyes, by the way, of the state, not in the eyes of us, some of us look at our teachers as our heroes, and we celebrate them daily. But clearly, the government, in some of the government institutions, have not honored this. So it is actually teachers feel disgrace as a disgrace in society lately because of what is happening. I can give you an example. You have heard how many groups have been getting money. Manyanga bouncers, chips, people who made chips.
Who are not working.
The abasika chips. No, just a moment.
Resolution for
cabinet.
Teachers and
the president gave those guys money. How long ago is it?
Over
They have never, honestly. They have never. So what I'm saying is that, you see, these things of resolutions are good for verbosity, for the news, for headlines, the teachers. What? For me, talking about real stuff. Now, if government or what passes a resolution, how does it help Nalwoga, a primary teacher in Nakaseke? What is the use of a resolution?
If it's other institutions
are getting money.
Very well, yes.
I've told you, chips, people who make chips have gotten money. Musicians, bouncers, bouncing what?
Abasaruni,
abasike mputa, abasike mamba. Everyone has got money, apart from
the teachers.
Now, you're opening up schools.
Meanwhile, the terms and conditions that were given to teachers to receive that money were the proper channels.
Everything was laid out well.
Being frustrated.
That's what I'm saying. Now you're opening up schools with people you expect to come back, and they are so frustrated. Priscilla told you, some of them are bricklayers, boda, pasika, chapati. You go to school for all these humongous years, and you end up as a chapati seeker. Not that frying chapati is anything wrong with it. This is okay for people who should be doing it. Now, you open up schools, what is the expectation? People are not going to come to classes. Schools are being sold.
Okay.
As advised.
If I saw how these teachers were yearning,
let me just say this lastly. Robert, let me just say
get
this
vaccinated, and in some areas like Wachiso, in areas like Wachiso, even the queues were so long that even they had to find better ways of how they organize people. Teachers are prepared to go back. Yes, there could be challenges. Some have gotten better opportunities.
Because they need to get paid.
But there are those that there are no bocos, and once
the wage bill that will come in even when schools do reopen. I mean, scientists are now in the next financial year, if all goes well, through 4 million shillings up to for a science teacher. And then how is that supposed to aid and facilitate an arts teacher to actually be interested in continuing in the education sector? That alone is going to cause a drop.
Bagamba Nyonyintono ngekuli muki. Those things of next year, 20 years, that is rubbish.
But Felix, then that is a move in the right direction. Still, we must understand that yes, Teachers for some time have had their issues, and no doubt about
Okay.
it.
Been promised.
I know.
Let's move away from that. Go back to the proposals. One of the other proposals was that lower education be reopened. P1 to P3. You do have promotion of 6-year-olds to P1, whether they have gone through kindergarten or not. Is that a move in the right direction? Because these ones have been seated for over a year, and really things have jumped out of their head.
These kids are just, the only thing they know now is Teletubby. They know Mouse and Cat, or what, Tom and Jerry.
For the urban ones.
You can,
Yeah, for the urban ones. For the rural ones, maybe they have learned how to work in minings, in quarries and all that. Farms.
So it's I think for me, among the very few resolutions, that for me was on point. That for me was on point, and it's a good remedy henceforth if it's well implemented.
Well, for me, commenting on that, Priscilla, there is a worry that I'm getting over time. We don't know the fate of nursery schools. Now more so if we know, of course, by the education.
No, but you see, there's that convenience of your child doesn't have to necessarily go through nursery school. The system starts from P1. So nursery school is really a luxury.
You've let them be. You've been taxing them, and you have training institutions specifically for lower primary and nursery schools.
And huge investments.
And huge investments in this. So yes, to catch up with time, those that are now 6 years and above automatically join, that is P1. But then what happens to this? I think we should, much as we need more of a surgical operation, quick solution, we also must be very careful of some of the decisions.
Also, Ministry of Education did propose community-based learning moving forward, but by volunteers. If a teacher can volunteer, then this program can actually move forward.
No volunteering.
So in the event that there are no volunteers, what happens?
This has been happening in some communities because the new schools were totally closed. And actually it has been where a teacher, maybe she can try out. But what happens when people know that the people are being paid? The spirit of volunteering in Uganda is not that so much. And I think the ministry should either think of this very right, but it's not something that you can rely on.
But also about that, Priscilla, you cannot give national guidance in terms of policy basing on volunteering. Let's be serious. I think the ministry should come out vivid about these issues, where they can make forcible investment or whatever. Talk about that. Now, how do you assure people? How you compel volunteers? I don't know.
Okay.
If he's teaching Nalwoga's kids and then the husband,
but you know that has already been happening.
Lastly, in this regard,
just a supplement on what Felix has said.
Lastly, in this regard, you do have a lot of unemployed youths out there. You do have a lot of people that are educated but have become job seekers. That has become a job in itself, going to place, putting in your paperwork, and you're not getting education. So the presence of educated population vis-a-vis availability of where to actually exercise that education to enhance the social and economic development of the country.
If you want me to make first comment, Priscilla, I'll say that we're doing definitely bad as a country in terms of how we can turn education to be useful. We're doing terribly bad, and the same is evidenced in the kind of results we have. And this is very worrying. That at the level, let's take a comparison, at the level of P7 after 7 years, that a child can do nothing. 7 years, let's be serious. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you count days, they can do nothing. All they can answer you is dicotyledonous seed, germination, what? Then chintu musoke. Photosynthesis. So that's all. Then after S4, the best they can answer you is Banseni Bana. Nothing. They can equally do nothing. Now that is 7 years plus 4. That makes it 11. Add the other 2. That makes it probably 13. Now add university. If out of about 16 years, someone can do nothing, then we are studying to do nothing.
Well, Priscilla, for me, what I can tell you is we need to sit as a country and come up with an education culture that is tailor-made for Ugandans. For Uganda, our vision and where we want to go. The challenge is we are still rotating on something that is for our colonial masters, whose intentions were to have people that are going to support them influence. Look at education. Today, many people are going into tertiary or technical institutions. Previously, our mindset were things that people who go to these institutions have failed. Poor performance.
So in short, let us make the tertiary institutions the actual institutions.
The thing.
Yes, the real deal.
It's a big thing.
That way we're going to have an education system that can support, more so push forward Uganda from third world country to a first world country, because we will now be making our own jobs, creating our own future, and designing our own things. I mean, getting our own vaccines, making our own vaccines. The future can be bright if only we look into the present curriculum that is being consumed by the current education sector. But the dailies also complement the conversation that we are having this morning. In the Daily Monitor, schools to reopen in the next 2 weeks. They give you a brief up following up that conversation from yesterday. We will look at your poll question responses later on, but for now, let's get into the details for the dailies this morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
For just 25,000 shillings, enjoy the world's biggest leagues and cap competitions. GoTV Uganda, love it.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa only if we stay at home, observe physical distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly, or get vaccinated now.
Five times the winning, yeah. 5 times the happiness, yeah. 5 times the luckiness, yeah. 5 for 5, oh yeah. It's 5 for 5. 5 for 5. 5 times the money, yeah. 5 times the shopping, yeah. 5 times the prizes, yeah. 5 for 5, oh yeah. It's 5 for 5. 5 for 5.
Win 100,000 Uganda shillings weekly in the 5 for 5 jackpot. Simply download the Sente mobile app. Click Sente on the go to open your account online. Transact 5 times or more using Sente mobile, Sente Visa, and Sente agent to stand a chance to win. The more you transact, the higher your chances of winning. So, participate in the 5 for 5 jackpot and win millions in daily and weekly prizes. The 5 for 5 jackpot is brought to you by Centenary Bank. Our bank, Centenary Bank, is regulated by the Bank of Uganda. Customer deposits are protected by the Deposit Protection Fund.
Getting GoTV was the best decision James has ever made. Finding a good place to watch football was never easy, but it was costly until James discovered something big. Now he can finally enjoy the benefits of homegrown advantage with a decoder and 1 month of GoTV Valley. For just 25,000 shillings, enjoy the world's biggest leagues and cap competitions. GoTV Uganda, love it.
Buli munya Uganda nayitinga makuru marungi. UBC West ina makuru marungi kandi agali kwesigwa. Rero za program zayo ziri omulunya kitara hamwe n'urufumbira. UBC West ine teknolojia ey'omulembe eri kugibasa kuhika omu bicweka byona omwihanga nangu naheru y'ihanga. Tukwatire aha frequencies zetu. Kisoro chenda na mushanju katonyeze mushanju fama. Kabari chenda neshatu katonyeze mushanju fama. Hoima chenda na mwenda katonyeze mwe fama. Kampala igane 5 katonyeze mushanju fama. Mbarara chenda na mushanju katonyeze 4 fama. Footpoto chenda na 8 katonyeze 8 fama. Masindi igana itano fama kurikiriza UBC West ohurire imbagatiza UBC West empika huna.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Good morning to you, and thank you for being with us on UBC TV. Wherever you are watching, our obligation is to ensure we spice up your morning with relevant information. It's now time to serve you a meal of what is contained in the dailies this morning. And I have the new vision. It is all about education on all the front pages of the dailies this morning, and that is a plan for schools reopening is out. That is, ministry proposes to start with primary 1 to 3, then senior 1 and senior 2. This is completing the academic calendar or year 2020. Masaka matters, also a focus of the new vision on the front page, where we see Masaka suspects to be charged with tourism, says Mohozi. Still, Kazimba, that's the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, asks government to protect priests. Yes, among those that were murdered was a catechist. We also look at the education columns there, where past A level they bring you chemistry and mathematics, then plus senior 1 biology. Lokech was exemplary, says President Museveni. That is the departed former deputy IGP. And still, the new vision looks at government earmarks 100 billion to recruit teachers and medics. Yes, that is more what we've just been discussing. Some could have gone into other professions or other jobs, and there are plans to recruit more. But still, the new vision talks about health, why it is never too early to take your health serious. Some tips there, how best you can do that. But Felix has the Daily Monitor, and let's have an insight of what is in there.
Now, of course, the Daily Monitor, EAC, how regional roadblocks are derailing trade, and a couple of tenders for some of you who want to pick them up, looking at a UNHCR, a new plan, ID, Parliament, and URA, Total, Kadono, Mobs, and Mukono, and many more. But of course, the big headline, schools to reopen in next 2 weeks. That's quite some good news. And a crisis meeting between Ministry of Education, district, municipal education officers, school representatives across the country agreed to review the existing curriculum to have only content that can be delivered in the given time. But of course, government plans to at least look at reopening. Government yesterday agreed that reopening schools, at least P1 to P3, S1 to S2 students, and of course, we'll be looking at by 14th of the calendar, weeks of the accelerated study. P1 to P3, S1, S2, 14 weeks of accelerated studies, and of course the ones 6-year-old will be going to P1. But of course, and much of that. But of course, again, veterans in Masaka come out to ask for guns to counter Masaka gangs. Reverend Canon Galenga, man of God who moved crowds, and Kituntu and Muloni split over cabinet jobs for Bogisu. Now, inside the papers, MPs raise queries over Soroti Fruit Factory, city traders to close shops over rent, and from the archives, Ugandan President then Idi Amin officially opens Jaja Marina Recreation Center in Munyonyo, Kampala, on the shores of Lake Victoria. That is in 24th, 1975. Now, today, again in history, 2 jailed over plot to arrest Obote, and deadly black miner strike ends there in the US.
Back to the new vision, we look at COVID-19 Uganda tracker, where new confirmed cases are 93, positivity rates at 3.2, the new death 15, and total death so far is 3,006. So we've hit that 3,000 mark. Please do not be part of these statistics. Those are people who have succumbed to COVID-19 in this country. Symptoms: if you have a fever, you have a cough, shortness of breath, sore throat, headache, please seek medical advice from the experts. The earlier, the better. Looking at facts or myth regarding COVID-19, how long is COVID-19 infectious in people? The experts there answer that for you. Today in history, it was on this date, the 31st of August, the year 2001, when it was clear no cars for members of parliament. During the welcome ball for the 7th parliament, then Speaker Edward Chwanuka II announced that MPs would not be getting cars to facilitate their jobs. He said the motor vehicles scheme that would be applicable in Parliament would be justifiable only if every member of Parliament was to pay for the motor vehicle they got from it. But as of now, yes, it is a bonanza there. Still on this very date, but the year 1997, Princess Diana died in a car crash that is in Paris there. But also the Twins Festival, something that the New Vision has focused on. Today they bring you twins that are serving the Lord, and that is twins that are serving Allah, and there are sheikhs. So much there you need to know about twins, identical or not. The New Vision has some tips there and coverage of that.
Now in sports, a full attention on Kenya after build-up fails. Volleyball cranes check into Kigali and Silverbacks play live and eat on credits. Now Dove Simba in top battle table clash there, but also they give you the tables and how they are faring there, of course, in English Premier League, Spanish La Liga, Italian Serie A, German Bundesliga and French League 1. Obua wants equal reward for Monk, and cranes turn all focus on Harambe.
Well, the New Vision Sports, it feels good to be back. Who is that? They give you more regarding Coach George. That is in. Then Afro Basket, still so much of how Uganda is doing there, performing there, and some of the challenges the team Uganda is going through. But stand up and be counted. That is our streamer. That is Kirabo, gives you more of what she means there and why we should stand up to give a hand in the world of sports. Still more of this. Ruben will be here to give you the details in sports and all those catchy stories, the sack that went missing, and now people need friends, but to know where to get them. However, let's also look at the Daily Nation this morning.
Well, in the Daily Nation, how Kenya power boss builds empire from deal, and again about politics, ban on public gatherings, including rallies, in place to curb spread of COVID-19. Politicians take 2022 battle to the churches. We see quite a hyped up pressure there in terms of the politics. Now scramble for COVID-19 vaccines in the counties, and Chagwe rules out private importation of the same. Of course, much of that is what is in the papers if you get yourself a copy of any of the dailies that we have taken you through. But again, we can't wait to get ourselves into the heart of this beautiful country, that is Kampala, by Nalwoga Priscilla.
Thank you so much, Felix Nkunda. We get to look at the state of traffic for a place that is actually going to be having continued growing heavy traffic over the coming weeks and months, where there's the construction of the Kampala flyover affecting the areas of downtown Kampala and Zambia, and also people that are coming in from Entebbe Road that by all means must access the city through Queensway. Looking at that particular area, we'll have a 3D ground satellite version of it and see what it's actually looking like, because continuously, because of the construction, there are pillars that have started coming up, meaning that there are now continuous diversions. You might have used a diversion today and it changes by the time you use the same route tomorrow. So something you must be conversant with. But looking at Zambia, for people coming in from Zambia using Zambia Road, obviously there is some traffic that is heavily building up to the traffic lights of Zambia that were removed because of the construction that is ongoing there. So it is one man for themselves and everyone else for themselves. But you must be very vigilant while using this place, especially for the borders and how recklessly they drive, and how there's barely, I think only in the morning hours do I see traffic officers. For the rest of the day, it is one man for himself and the road for all of us. So please put that into consideration, and it's affecting the flow of jam on Mukwano Road. For anyone that starts to interface with this place, especially after Mukwano Industries, the jam starts to build up, and it is standstill traffic jam that moves only by a second or 2 seconds. And so if those have been your routes expected to be used this morning, you might want to find maybe an alternative route. You can go through Namuwongo and then use Mbogo Road, come out from Kabalagala. Then you're able to access any other part of Zambia. Even if you're going to Entebbe Road, I think those would be the better alternative routes for you to learn at such a time as this. Now, speaking of the particular area that we are talking about this morning, Zambia Road connecting with Queensway, and as you see, the red zone is stretching right from the traffic lights where they used to be, and it is heading into this particular area. Now, the red dotted line you see here is showing you that this was the original route for people that are coming in from Zambia, connecting to Entebbe Road without having to actually access this particular region. But now that route has been closed off, and there's a new diversionary route that has been created, and that route simply causes you to actually first come to where the Queen's Way or the clock tower was initially, and then you connect to Entebbe Road. So that is the new route. Even for vehicles that are actually heading also to Entebbe Road or ShopRite for that matter, still you have to access this particular route, then you can be able to connect. You can see red zones in this particular area. Of course, in around here where you do have Nachivubo Blue Primary School, there's also a diversionary route that has been created, and it has reduced the space of the road. And if we can have a ground satellite look into what that is looking like, because there's narrowness in this particular area. Now you can see lines here. You do have about 4-5 lines, but now when they come out, it's actually 2 lines because of that particular encroachment on the road here, which reduces the cars that can pass 1 car at a time, which has increased the traffic on this particular route. So for anyone that is using Mengo, who's coming through Safi, coming through Katwe, coming in from Masaka Road, Ndeba, you're coming in from Machindie, and you're using this route, of course it's the most major route into the heart of the city, then please note you might want to find alternative routes to get into the heart of the city, as continuous construction is going on for the Kampala flyover. Equally, because of the diversionary route that I have just earlier talked about, you can see that we also do have a lot of vehicles that are waiting in line for direction. And as you know that UNRA is having its people here that are now manning and helping the traffic officers to manage this traffic depending on where it's actually going. And yet, even just in between here on Entebbe Road connecting to the clock tower, there's also diversionary routes because they have put Babita Vidomora that are actually having construction material there, so those also are affecting how traffic is easily flowing. So it's not going to be your usual traffic where you expect to spend about 30 minutes. Now you will have to consider spending over an hour in this particular territory, especially for the morning hours. So please have that in mind, and for now I do highly recommend till the end of the year perhaps that you find alternative routes, because now the pillars have started coming up in this area that you see here that looks deserted. That's where the pillars are coming up to facilitate the Kampala flyover. So those are traffic considerations for you to have this morning. But we thank you so much for your responses to our poll question, which we're going to be looking at later on. For now, Mwalen Kenyana continues with the conversations on weather, nature and climate.
Yes, thank you very much, Priscilla. And now we continue with that story coming in from Louisiana in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida. Well, Hurricane Ida did land as a Category 4 hurricane on the coast of Louisiana, and that was bringing mostly flash flooding and also with strong winds. Now, the worst to ever hit this area is still on record. That is Hurricane Katrina, but that was in 2005. Well, it landed as Category 3, but now we look at Hurricane Ida landing as Category 4 and bringing all these devastating effects. A lot of people lost their homes. We also have reports of over 18,000 residents losing power, and also the oil and gas production in that area also without power. And the good news also coming in indicates that this is now weakening into a tropical depression. That can only mean that the effects will only get to weaken. Also, there is still an alert for river flooding as River Mississippi is now looking at more of that flooding, causing the tributaries to also increase, and that could be much more devastating, but that is also still being looked at by the meteorologists over Louisiana. But this morning we are looking at more of the good news is that this could actually weaken into a tropical depression away from the hurricane. Well, and for our image of the day, we do have a picture coming in from Copernicus Sentinel-2. That is a satellite imagery over Africa. Now, this is looking at the coverage from Madagascar and specifically the drought that has hit this area. Now, reports are showing that this is the worst drought to ever be had on record for the last 40 years across Madagascar. Now, the satellite is showing all the area that has been dried up due to this drought. Now, that is mostly southern Madagascar, which is why worst hit. Still looking at food insecurity over that area. A lot of people are going through this, and it's actually bad that the drought still continues. Now, Madagascar has had their rainy season, and when they actually do harvest in March, May to June. So the rainy season starts in March, but then harvesting time is always May to June. But this time we didn't have any of the harvests coming from southern Madagascar, and this has been attributed to the drought over this area. Now, this image was taken on the 26th of August, coming in from Copernicus there, Sentinel-2 satellites that are looking over ahead of Africa. Well, we want to look at our weather prospects for the week across the region, and this is from ICPAC, our Climate Prediction Center, looking at the total rainfall that we are expecting this week, where you see the deep green colors. That is where we expect more rains across the country. We do have still Mount Elgon Highlands in the highlight for more rainy conditions expected over that area, and also northwestern part of Uganda, that is across the West Nile, Arua, Yumbe, that area can still expect to have more rains, and this forecast is going up to the end of the week. That is the first week of September. We do expect more rains across central northern Uganda, Gulu, Padel, Kitgum, that area can still expect to have more rainfall, and also those across the Lake Choga region over to Midwestern, Masindi, Fort Portal, you can still expect light rains over there. Now, where you see the yellow colors and the orange, we do expect to also have wet weather conditions, but those will be mostly in lower quantities. We do have the Lake Victoria Basin. We're looking at mostly the western part of Lake Victoria, where we have Masaka, Sembabule, Rengo, that area is expected to have reduced wet weather activities. It will be mostly interval sunny and cloudy conditions. It is taking in the white colors and orange. That is expected to have a reduction. Also same for southwestern Uganda, across Kabale Highlands, Kisoro, that area can expect to have also reduced wet weather activities. Same goes for the Karamoja region and the upper side of eastern Uganda. That area still in the orange color is expected to have reduced wet weather activities. But the good news across Lake Victoria, the central, especially the central part of Lake Victoria, where we have Kampala as well, and in Entebbe, Wakiso, that area will still be having wet weather conditions. And again, this is mostly influenced by the local effect, that is by the effect of Lake Victoria. That usually brings us rains across that area, even when other parts of the country are actually dealing with reduced wet weather activities. And it is also the same condition for the Mount Elgon Highlands, still being influenced by Mountain Elgon over that area. But for this morning, we will go ahead and take a look at our forecast. It looks like we have started off with mostly cloudy conditions across the city. We did have much of those rains, but those were as we were heading into the early morning. Now let's start off with, again, Mount Elgon Highlands. We have Bale, Bududa, Buko and Sironko. We're forecasting isolated showers, and those are also starting off at a warm 27 degrees centigrade. We expect those rains to continue into the afternoon. Central northern Uganda, we have Gulu, Kitgum, Padel, and Jumani. We're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine. We do expect a pickup of wet weather conditions in the afternoon, but this morning we are starting off with temperatures at 27 degrees centigrade. Eastern parts of Central, we have Ruwero, Wobulenzi, Bururi and Nakaseke. We're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, but starting off with a warm morning at 28 there, and this is only expected to get warmer. We could hit 30s by the end of the day. Do look out for those warm conditions across that area. Now, Eastern Uganda, we have Soroti, Katakwi, Amuri and Kumi. We're forecasting intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. We're having mostly cloudy conditions for now, but we have that sun coming through, and also starting off with a warm 28 degrees centigrade. That area can expect to have light rains as the day progresses, but also that will be over a few areas. Now, the eastern part of Lake Victoria, where we have Jinja, we have Tororo, we have Busia and Iganga, we are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, and temperatures are expected to start off at 27 degrees centigrade. We do expect also more sunny conditions as we head into the afternoon. Also, that area is likely to hit the 30s. Now, the central part of Lake Victoria, that is where we have Mukono, we have Kampala, we have Entebbe, Wakiso. We are forecasting mostly light rains, but those will be also over a few areas, starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade. And also it looks like we're going to have a similar morning like we did have yesterday. Well, in Mbarara, Ibanda, Wushenyi and Rubirizi, we are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, and also temperatures expected to start off at a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade. That area can still expect similar conditions as we head into the afternoon. We'll have more of those sunny intervals. Western part of Lake Victoria, we're looking at Masaka, we're looking at Sembabule, Rakai, we have rainbow in that category. We are forecasting mostly a sunny morning with those cloudy intervals, but starting off at 27. The area is also expected to have wet weather conditions developing later as the day progresses. Looks like we've had actually reduced wet weather activities across most areas within the country, but there is prospects for more wet weather activities picking up, especially by mid-September, as we look at our start for our rainy season that goes up to December. Well, this morning we did pose a question about reopening of schools, and Priscilla is here with more on your views. Priscilla, what do you have for us this morning?
Well, how can government assure safety for both students and teachers as schools plan to reopen? You have responded to this poll question, and we want to check out some of those responses this morning. Ronald in Kasese, good morning. UBC GMU, should we expect Harambee Stars versus Cranes? That is on Thursday, 2nd. That's a question Ruben Pima Chivirango will give you an update on with our sports update. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Cricket Derek from Machindi Wafu. I think government should still focus on vaccination of both students and teachers as the major fight for COVID-19, and still teachers need to teach about the disease, its dangers and how to overcome it. Students really need all the necessary information about COVID that when they can accept and adhere to the SOPs, this may still be a doubting thing. Okay, another response here. Mosh from Namutumba district. Let the government provide tents to schools because even government schools have overwhelming numbers now. What about private schools which are suffering to pay their debts during these hard times? Thank you so much, Mosh, for your contribution to our poll question. Another respondent here, the government should come out and observe the generation. The generation is decorating, girls are being raped, forced marriages, child labor. Please, government, don't sit and plan only to queue taxpayers' money. You are consuming to a lion's share. You need to decentralize the system of governance. Okay, thank you so much for your response there. Another response here from Zaid Joffrey, teacher. I'm beginning to think about quitting the teaching. That gentleman in a black jacket has really spoken well. Okay. Well, Felix did make good observations there, but dear teacher, if you quit, then what is the future of the education system, because if it's you and then another, then we're going to have deficit of teachers. Well, this is not a call line, but on Twitter, you can definitely follow us. UBC Uganda has 4 TV stations and 11 radio stations. Now, speaking of radio stations, we have TV West finally going to home. We do have Radio West going home, that is to Mbara. They are starting to shift to Mbara, and so people of Mbara do expect to receive them. They will be in the best, in the area code, and we wish them all the best as we are also trying to decentralize and ensure that all these national radio stations can be actually within the communities to whom they communicate to, especially via language. So Radio West, we wish you the best. We will miss you, but we know that you are going to make a better impact in that direction. Otherwise, follow up on more of those updates on our Twitter handle, which is at UBC TV Uganda. And right now, of course, on air, you do have Good Morning Uganda that continues with Robert Kirabo into the agenda for today. Later on, we'll be having Ruben Pima coming through with the sports update. Now, speaking of the sports update, on our Twitter handle, we do have an update in that regard that the question came through: will UBC be televising the game for the FIFA World Cup qualifiers? Uganda Cranes ready to face Kenya's Harambee Stars in the 2022 World Cup qualifier game. You can follow up the update by checking out that video on Twitter. For now, we'll leave you with a break, and then when we return, we are going to be getting into Good Morning Uganda agenda. Good morning.